Right. Firstly, thank you to those of you who are here in the Cove and online. And thanks to the club for allowing us to use the Cove tonight. And to all our members, all 1,141 of you, thank you for your support. This is your Torquay United Supporters Trust. Over the past year, we've gone from a fairly typical 300 or so members to our current figure. Of course, our membership swelled initially almost overnight due to the position the club found itself in when Clark Osborne pulled the plug, or rather his backers did. And along with the amazing response to the community share issue. The financial backing you gave us, and ultimately the club, was truly humbling. And that brings us to the situation we are in now, with myself and Danny Wyatt becoming football club directors. Danny, unfortunately, can't be with us this evening, as she and her teammates are at a very important training session in preparation for their crucial final league fixture on Sunday at Sherborne Ladies, as nothing but a win will see them promoted back to their national league. So, what's it like being a football club director? Well, first of all, it's a privilege and a great honour with much responsibility. After 50 plus years as a supporter, 35 plus years as a season ticket holder, as an exile living outside the Bay, to be a club director is the ultimate accolade. We have a great relationship with the six Bryn guys, who are all passionate fans. And Michael, Mark BC and Simon Robinson, we see and talk with on regular basis, while the other three, due to their living elsewhere, we tend to meet at away grounds or when we have online board meetings. To date, there have been 3 board meetings online, which Danny and I attend, with TUST business on each agenda. We are able to discuss any topics of our choosing, and these may be issues that have come from our own board meetings or from our members. As examples, we have raised issues about the financial state of the club Bryn inherited, the football governance bill, the introduction of the 1899 lottery, the proposal of a membership scheme for the club, and the use of the Plainmoor Green for fan zones. I have been personally involved in the appointment of a supporter liaison officer, and Paul, who is here tonight, will continue to be a fantastic ambassador for the club, but now in an official capacity. I have also produced a club charter, which is about to be signed off, ready for the new season. And by the way, these 2 initiatives are requirements of membership of the Football League. So we are planning ahead for the time when Torquay returns to the EFL. What the directors have learnt in the year is that there is a lot more to running a football club than just the football. The target is to be a sustainable football club and to achieve achieve everything that requires everyone's support. And we at TUST are fully aware of the current feedback from fans regarding the season tickets, Plainmoor passes. And on this subject, I have spoken with Michael Westcott this week on the telephone for over half an hour. And for your information, there is due to be a chairman's chat on camera recorded next week which aims to clarify and address the feedback that the club has received. Danny and I were recently part of the interviewing panel to appoint a managing director, and an announcement of his appointment will be made soon as he starts on Monday, June the 2nd. And TUST members, as you will be well aware, were asked to choose the club's third shirt for the new season. And all our involvement in the running of the club is in huge contrast to the way in which we were treated by the previous ownership. So as directors, it is true to say our relationship with the others is evolving and developing all the time. Is everything perfect? No, of course not. What would I like to see improved? In a word, communication. At present, it's hard to know who takes ownership of day-to-day issues, but the expectation is that our main point of contact in the future will be the new managing director. So I hope that's like giving you a flavour of how Danny and I and our role as directors works. And we are all obviously looking forward to the new season and everything that that brings. So we'll carry on with our agenda this evening, and I'm sure if you've got questions you want to ask me, then that's fine. I'll try and answer them as best I can. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Nick. So we're going to cover a lot of ground during the agenda tonight, but if there are other outstanding questions, there will be a Q&A session. You can ask questions directly to Nick or any of the board towards the end of the meeting. Before we get on to the main purpose of tonight, which was looking at our strategy going forwards and where we should be focusing our spending of our money, I just want to say a very quick word on the subject of our rules. So the rules that the Trust work to are model rules produced by the Football Supporters Association. And the current rules we're using are the 2014 version. There have been 2 updates to those rules since 2014. And the reason I mention it now is that at the AGM last year, we did tell members that we were likely to adopt the latest set of rules, which would require a members' meeting. Since then, it's come to light that the Football Supporters Association are completely rewriting the rules. There's obviously no point in us adopting them at the moment until that new version is made available. So I'm anticipating that will be hopefully before our AGM in November. So then we can look at the rules and decide whether or not to adopt them at that time. So I'm just mentioning that because there may be people who are expecting the new set of rules sooner than that. Okay. Tonight's intended to be very much a 2-way discussion. It's called a members' consultation meeting, and that's what it is, both for the people in the room and the people on Zoom. And it's about reviewing what our strategy should be going forwards. And as I said, on the back of that, what our priorities for spending our surplus funds should be. But by way of background, perhaps I should just say a few words about our current strategy and where we are with that and the process for reviewing the new one. So our current strategy was worked up over the previous 3-4 years to address the issues we faced with the previous ownership. So very much focused on protecting our residency at Plainmoor, trying to ensure the fans had a voice, albeit the previous ownership refused to engage with the Trust completely. And indeed, concerned about the very financial future of the club. Obviously, the position we're in now, as Nick said, is very different. And so we are long overdue a review of that strategy going forwards because we're in a very different world. So the process for reviewing it is that we have, as a subgroup of the board, the Trust board, we have what we call a strategy team who were responsible for drafting the original strategy. And they started to look at that and come up with some suggestions for how it needs to be updated. That in turn was reported to the board, and the board have approved or amended those recommendations. And it's that we're now putting to you tonight, and would welcome your views on. What we want is a strategy. We're looking at a 3-year strategy, which will steer the direction of the trust going forwards. Okay. So we have 4 or 5 key discussion items, I think. And the first of those is supporter representation. Perhaps before I go on to that, I should just remind you all that the mission statement of trust, and the board don't think this needs updating, we think it's still appropriate, is that TUST seeks to ensure the long-term sustainability of our club for the benefit of current and future supporters and the wider community. It promotes the highest standards of governance and inclusivity. And with that aim, we have 5 core objectives, and these come directly from the model rules that we operate to. The first is representing supporters. The second is promoting supporter influence. The third is community engagement. The fourth is good governance. And the last one is being inclusive. So, as I said, the first point we want to discuss really is supporter representation, and part of that is communication. So, as Nick said, we've now got these 2 seats on the board. We've got our supporter liaison officer in place going forwards, and we are co-owners of the club. But the TUST remains independent of the club, and that's important. We're there to challenge the club where necessary and to make sure that the views of support our members and the wider supporter base are put across. The one proposal we proposed to put into the strategy is the statement that where trust views differ from the club's, our appointees on the club board will represent our views. That's where the independence comes. Probably worth just reflecting on the ways in which we do communicate with our members. Obviously, we have our annual general meeting. We have the annual board elections, and last year, for the first time, we actually had more candidates than there were seats, so we did have an election. We have special meetings such as this, and I think this type of meeting will be probably more common going forwards. There was a little lapse when we weren't producing regular newsletters, but we're now getting back into the habit. So our plan is virtually every month we will send out a newsletter updating members on what the trust is up to, and particularly decisions made at board meetings. Face to face, a lot of supporters know members of the TUST board and will come and speak to us in the bars, on the terraces, in the stands, on match days. And then, of course, there's our social media, where we have a good, strong presence and a lot of exchange of information through that course. And the one thing I would say, and this isn't probably used as much as it could be, is that any member at any time can mail us any questions or comments at our info@email address. And they may not get an instant reply because we're all volunteers, we're not monitoring that 24 hours a day. But if anyone does send in a question, they will get an answer. It may take a day or two, but you will get a response. I think what I'd like to do is really float open to the floor. If anyone has any views on the way they're represented, communications they get from the trust, and if you like, communications from the club, although that's something that we only have an indirect influence on. But if anyone's got any comments on communication or representation, please say so.
In relation to the 2 board members, in relation to the 2 board members of the trust that are on the board of Torquay United, I don't think we've received a great deal of feedback. I mean, it might not be nothing to report, I'm not quite sure. Do they just go along with the decisions? We just don't know. Are you in harmony, or is there disagreement put forward by the trust representatives towards the committee? We don't hear a lot about that.
Well, Sam, there's probably not a lot to tell you at the moment, because as I said when I was talking earlier, the sort of relationship is evolving, and we've only had 3 official football club board meetings and they tend to be, all three of them have been online, although there is an intention to have at least one or maybe two a year in a calendar year, face to face, so like probably here, I imagine. So yeah, I mean, I think I gave some examples of what we've been talking about. Basically, I suppose what happens is that I say what I need to say, Danny says what she needs to say, and the Bryn guys listen, and if there's something that they feel they wish to make a comment about, then they do. Otherwise, it's all noted in the minutes. That sounds fairly sort of perfunctory, but that's the way it is. But personally, I'm from a distant past where doing everything online is fairly alien to me, because I used to be a headmaster and ran lots of schools, and I'm the sort of person that you need to be face to face with your teaching staff in a staff meeting every week, not online looking at someone's face on a laptop or a camera. So it's not quite the same as being together in the same room like we are tonight, being online. You don't see people's body language as much as you do if you're sitting in a room with people, for example. You don't sort of see asides that people might give because they're not on camera at the time. So it's a new world that we're all in. And it's a new world for Torquay United. It's a new world for TUST being part of Torquay United. And in a sense, these are still early days, and there's still lots that can develop. So, I mean, I'm sure if there are things that need to be given back to the membership, then we'll do that. As Rick's just said, we're resurrecting monthly newsletters. So if something happens to have come out of a football club board meeting that's relevant, we'll put it in the newsletter.
What would you like to see, Sam?
Well, it's just that there's meetings take place, and what happens that we don't know. Then all of a sudden, it's what was the discussion? We don't know what was TUST, the trust in. And it's just things like that, and I'm not knocking. I think what a magnificent situation we're in now compared to 13 months ago, 14 months ago. But it's just, I just want to know how it's going. Really.
Well, if you want to know about the Plainmoor passes, the season tickets, then let's put our cards on the table. Michael Westcott and Mark Lovell came to our April board meeting and did a presentation on what they were proposing for the season tickets for this season. I think they were with us for an hour and a half, something like that. All the TUST board was there at the time, and we listened to what their proposals were. And to sum up, we all agreed that we would support what it was they were trying to do. So that was back in April. So hang on. So the plan at the time was for the information about season tickets to be released towards the end of April. For reasons that aren't very clear, they weren't, and they weren't released until last Friday. So I said, what is there that we would like to see improved? And I said the one word answer was communication. And this is where in any walk of life, in any business, if your communication isn't there or it breaks down, then people fill the void with their own comments, their own solutions, their own ideas, which aren't the official ones. So if there's any fault to be put anywhere, it's down to the fact that the club's communications are poor. There's no two ways of getting about that. this is part of the phone conversation that I had with Michael Westcott on Tuesday this week. And as an aside to that, the fact that as the chairman of the Supporters Trust, I can ring up and have a lengthy conversation with the chairman of the football club is like, like manna from heaven. It's just, compared with the relationship I didn't have with the previous CEO, for example. You can't have everything together all at once. Rome wasn't built in a day, and all those trite comments that people give out sometimes, but it's true. We are developing, we are evolving, and nothing's perfect. No one's perfect. Things go wrong, and I think when things go wrong, if you put your hand up and say, yeah, okay, we've made a mistake, then fine. I've passed on all the comments that fans, forums, and so on have given to us in the last few days since the plain ball passes were announced. And to be perfectly honest, the ball's back in the court of the football club for them to deal with it. We've done our bit as the Supporters Trust. I hope that answers your question. I'm trying to be open and honest as much as I can. Yeah, go
on. Question from Kevin Brittlestone. How did MW respond to your concerns?
Well, he listened and he said he was writing them all down. And I know that after he had our phone conversation on Tuesday, there were one or two things that I told him that he came to the club on Tuesday to sort them out. I know that because I've had feedback from somebody else. So it didn't fall on deaf ears, if that's what someone's asking me. Action was taken. And I believe that when the chairman's chat on camera comes out next week, I'm hoping, expecting, there might be some changes. Right, cool.
I'd like some clarity on, if you go to a board meeting, there's going to be a vote. How are you going to decide how you're going to vote? Are you going to discuss it with and then be mandated to go and vote, or are you going to bring it to the members, or how would you approach it?
Well, so far you're talking about the football club board.
Yeah.
Voting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not this last board meeting, but the previous one, which was in February. There needed to be a vote on a topic. I don't think I'm at liberty to tell you what the topic was.
It doesn't matter.
But if there was a need to have a vote, and all of us and the directors were on a WhatsApp group, and a vote was done on WhatsApp. So it's just straightforward yes and no.
What basis did you vote? How do you know this is what the board wanted and the members wanted?
I voted as a director of the football club because that is my role on that particular board meeting.
For the way you saw it.
Yes.
I think Mark would be perhaps a slightly different answer. It depends what the subject is.
Yeah.
So as a director of the football club, obviously Nick's prime responsibility is to the club. But if it was an issue that was particularly relevant to supporters, it would certainly be something that would be discussed at the TUST board, and we would give Nick our steer. And if it's a critical thing, I imagine it'd be thrown out to consult all the members. But it would probably depend on the subject. But in the normal board business, Nick would vote as a director, but obviously being fully aware of what TUST policies are and how the members think.
Not a criticism. Yeah. I'm only looking for clarification. I'm just trying to understand on where you operate and how you would make decisions.
Yeah,
because you are representing us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore we have a right to understand how you see things and how you would react to it. And I'm not talking about the price of fish and chips.
No. So, a lot of it comes down to trust.
Yeah.
You have to. You probably don't know me well enough. I mean, I don't know, but you'll just have to trust me that I am a responsible person.
Well, to say we also have a WhatsApp group, and sometimes with more important decisions, we will email the board hasn't been any occasion like that where Nick has come to us and said, we need to make a decision on this. But that's a quicker way that we would do it. If Nick
Yeah,
had to get back.
that's a reasonable way of doing it. Can't bring everything back to the members all the time.
I have just talked about tickets, but there are many things that Nick brings back to us from his meetings with the other directors for our opinion, and we discuss it. And we in turn will listen to anybody that talks to us. We look at the social media and take that in when we had our comments as a board. And we did that when we had the meeting. Michael.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
I think the telephone call that Nick had with Westcott this week was a direct result of feedback that we all gave him at the board meeting.
Yeah.
We have been unhappy with the communication because there was going to be a chairman's chat weeks ago, and the season tickets were going to be released just after the Hemel game, and we're not clear. To be truthful, we're not clear why that hasn't happened. But the lines of communication are very open, and we're hearing back as well. So it is going on, but obviously a lot of it is sort of fairly quiet and behind the scenes.
Are you able to clarify the problems regarding season more past this year? What is my collection looking at? I know things that I've seen.
I don't know. I mean, I just passed on all the things that we've had passed on to us, and from what we've observed from our own checking forums and social media and so on, and I've just passed all that on. So how much of it he wrote down when he was writing it down, he told me, I don't know.
Exactly was that? Is it the cost, the fact that they're trying to stop 14-year-olds now going under 14 into Bristol? What were the main sort of grievances?
Yeah, I think the big sort of issue is families who have been currently in Bristow's needing to move to the families, and the difference in costs as a result. That's basically the essence of the. I think a lot of people who don't necessarily have children or families are just single or double season ticket holders. I mean, everybody knows. I mean, you don't have to, hear it from me. There's a cost of living crisis. There's in the same way that the government tells us they've got £22 billion black hole to fill. Well, all I can tell you is, people still think that because the crowds towards the end of the season were 5,000 plus, and all the debtors have been paid off, the assumption that everyone has made is that, oh gosh, the club's solvent, the club's financially secure, why have the ticket prices gone up? And the answer is that the club is still suffering from the previous ownership and the £1 million losses that they accumulated. Even now, the club is losing money. Even now, the club is still losing money. Those are the facts. I don't want to sound patronising. I'm not that sort of person, but if we all want, I'm sure everybody in this room and online, and the ones who aren't even here tonight or online, everybody's dying for this club to get back into the Football League and be a Football League team again. Because the majority of the years that I've spent watching Torquay United have been as a league club. To be in the league that we're in at the moment is sort of like, golly. So we need to get out of this. But, the 6 Bryn guys, they saved this club a year ago with their own money. They're not going to keep delving into their own pockets all the time. to give the manager an extra whatever playing budget. So all of us are in this together. And I think the majority of people I've read about, and that, that's not a huge number, I would admit, but people realise, the ones without families appreciate why the prices have gone up. Yes, the prices are higher for us for National South than they are for a number of football league clubs. People have been saying, Plymouth Argyle's this, their prices are that, Exeter Cities are this, Burton Albion's are that. And, I've read all this, and but every club's different. Some clubs have a sugar daddy who's pumping in millions of pounds of their own money every month or whatever. This club isn't like that anymore. This club is being run properly, sustainably, with fans at the heart of it. And eventually this club will be, if it goes in the direction it's going at the moment, will be a totally owned fan club. So we're all in it. Everyone will be in it together. For me, the ticket pricing is subsidiary to why we're actually meant to be here tonight, to be honest, because we're meant to be talking about other things. I don't know. I'm just trying to be as open and honest as I can. I can't tell you everything because I am bound by sort of confidentiality. But I'm not trying to hide much from you. I'm really not.
I think people are too much of a problem. Some of the families, especially the family ticket, is some of those individual families struggling to see.
That particular family that you've just quoted, the £475, has actually sent one of us an email about it, which has then been sent on to Michael Westcott.
He was probably his two children. So there's all those sort of elements.
Well, we believe that because I said that Danny and I, we interviewed the final 3 candidates to be the managing director about a month ago. And the guy who's been given the job starts, as I said, on Monday, the 2nd of June. We're really hopeful. Well, I have met him, so I know what he's like. But, he's not going to wave a magic wand. It's not all going to change by day 2 of his appointment. But I think he's going to be the sort of guy that's going to make things happen, which they need to.
Perhaps now's the time to move on.
Joe, before you start, mate, some people are having difficulty hearing on Zoom, so I'm going to come around with the microphone. It works. Try that one. Oh, the speakers are turned off, isn't they? You're loud enough, Joe. Just go.
Going back to this presentation, I think I would like to see us in the club ensuring there's a minimum of 2 fans forums. I think that's one. Not everyone wants to email and their request. It's a one-way dialogue.
Because there's 2.
Okay, so the club charter I said I put together actually says in the club charter that there have to be 2 fans forums a season. So it's in the club charter that I wrote.
Hold up. Is everybody all right with that?
Or the buzzing.
Yeah.
Makes more sense than everybody else. I'm only joking.
I thought it was a good vote of confidence, actually.
No.
They got, didn't they, when the microphone worked?
It's the speakers, I think. Might just have to shout louder.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The buzzing is just too irritating.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we move on? Sorry, there's no questions coming.
They just said they can hear the front but not the floor.
Okay, we'll try and rectify that. Can we move on to the next topic, which is, bear in mind, this is comparing the existing strategy of what we're going to have going forwards. And the next topic is Plainmoor Stadium. So as I've already said, the previous strategy is very much about protecting our position here in the knowledge that the previous ownership were intending to move away from here to heaven knows where. That's obviously a completely different situation now. So such a move doesn't appear to be on the agenda of the current ownership. If it was, we would know about it. But regardless of that, of course, one of the rights that we've acquired in our share ownership and in the club's articles of association is that no move from Plainmoor can be done without the approval of the supporters through the trust. So that's, I'm not saying these things can't be overturned, but to all intents and purposes, that's forever and a day, regardless of who the owners are. Having said all of that, we have always maintained that the council should retain the freehold of Plainmoor. And we had quite a lot of discussion about that, but we still are of that opinion that certainly it should not be handed over to any owner of the club unless we actually think that is the right decision. But our strategy is going to state that we believe firmly that the council should retain the ownership. Some of you may be aware or may recall that for a number of years now, we've had Plainmoor registered as what's called an asset of community value, which is something you register with the council, which means if the owners are ever looking to sell it, we as the trust would have the first option to make an offer for it. We don't see that as being essential now, given that we've got that right of veto on moving, so we're not proposing to renew that. So we are going to have a reference to new stadiums in the strategy, but it'll be a long way down the list. We're simply going to say that whilst we are committed to staying at Plainmoor, if there are any future discussions about relocating the stadium, we will represent supporters' views and interests in such considerations. But I stress again, there's nothing we're aware of that suggests any ambition to move away. Then the final piece of that jigsaw is when we were considering possible scenarios where the club might be at crisis point and be on the risk of folding, or if there was going to be a need to launch a Phoenix club, we had a lot of discussions about the merits for and against putting an artificial pitch down. And there is an argument that an artificial pitch gives you use 24 hours a day, 365 or 364 days of the year. And a lot of clubs, use that as an income generator. But clearly, where we are now, we feel that that's not on the agenda, not something that we or the current ownership are considering. As you probably know, you have at the moment you have to have a grass pitch back in the football league. So obviously, there'd be little point of putting the cost of putting an artificial one down if you're then going to rip it up in a year or two's time. So just making the point that the existing strategy has something in it about artificial playing surfaces, the new one won't. Okay. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments relevant to the
before you do that, can someone on the panel repeat the question from the floor?
Yeah.
So the online people can hear.
Yeah. I mean, most of that's fairly obvious, probably, but are there any questions about it?
Rick, just for the purposes of the whole route, do you know what the remaining term on the lease is? The council.
So the question is, do we know what the remaining term on the lease is? From memory, and others may correct me, I think it's 2080.
Around 2080, yeah.
So
we've got a good time left. Yeah, not going to need to worry about it probably in most of our lifetimes.
I won't have
I've made a note of it.
Community value. It's in planning and it's logged at Torbay Council. So are you saying, we don't need that?
Yes. So to be clear, it lasts, I think it's for a period of 5 years, and then it has to be renewed. So I think we originally got it registered in about 2017. Yeah. We renewed it in 2021 or 2. But technically, it's still there at the moment, what we're saying is we don't believe there's a need to renew it when it lapses.
I disagree.
Okay.
And I disagree because you just never know. Ring might get cheesed off for whatever reason or whatever, and somebody else comes in. Just keep it going all the time. It's a level of insurance.
I agree.
I think that's
Can I just say, I did hear, I can't remember where I heard it, and don't quote me, but I think the present government wants to make all sports facilities, all recreation facilities, or to give them all a asset community value status.
That's right, Bob.
Yeah.
That is right.
That is right, yes.
Yeah.
So Claymore will be protected under that.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah, Sam.
comes in, until that comes in,
Yeah, we got something better though, Sam. The club's got a set of articles of association, and that's in the articles of association. It can't be sold without TUST say so.
No, but we're talking planning here, and planning is that is the master protection that asset of community value.
It's not.
This article of association and covenants and all the rest of it is all very well, but that is the master, and that's the guarantee that it's very difficult to change that designation.
I think, Sam, if I'm no expert on this, but I did do quite a lot of research when we renewed it. And in all honesty, the asset community value is a good thing to have, but it doesn't actually guarantee you a great deal. All it guarantees you is the opportunity to put together an offer to buy the asset. And if you don't do that, then
But
you're not.
why not have that?
help braces.
Okay.
I think it's a bad idea, and I'm totally against it. Not renew it.
That's what the driver is not to renew it. Is it financial? Is it cost?
There is, I don't think there's any cost, or if there is, it's a minimal cost. It is simply we felt with the Articles of Association that's a much stronger protection. The ACV doesn't actually give you anything that the Articles don't. But you know, we hear what you're saying, so we think.
We can provide a paper.
I think the board, let the board take that away and think about it. And we hear what you're saying, and that's exactly what tonight's all about. It's about hearing comments and recommendations from the board.
I think also the asset community value gives you the right to put together a bid and have the first bid. It doesn't have to be accepted. They can ignore it.
What also it did at the time we registered it. Well, at the time when we registered the ACP, another reason for doing it was the owners couldn't sell the club for 6 months. There had to be a 6-month period where the supporters could organise a bid. If you think about what happened, and now when the club went into administration, with kind of that scenario, we had a 6-month window to put in a bid before the owners could consider any bids from anywhere else. It was a delaying tactic as well. I'm not saying yes or no to keeping it. I'm just saying that's another reason for having it.
Okay, well, we hear what the feeling of the room is, and we'll put it on our agenda for our next.
Yeah, the feeling of the online room is the same as well. So I think it's something we need to look at.
Okay.
Perfect. That's fine. That's great. Yeah, good. Yep.
Okay, any other questions on Playmore before we move on? Okay. The next item is future ownership aspirations. It's probably fairly brief, really. Bear in mind, we're talking here about a 3-year plan. Now, whatever we or members might think about ultimately having full ownership of the club or relinquishing ownership to a private investor, we don't see anything. We don't see anything happening in the next 3 years. So we're not aspiring to be an Exeter City within the next 3 years. We're going to be pretty much where we are at the moment. There may be the opportunity to increase our share of the ownership. There may be other owners coming in potentially. But we're not proposing to put it in our strategy. It is our intention to achieve full fan ownership within. Does that sound reasonable? Okay. The next item is community engagement. So again, prior to the change in ownership, we had a policy. We were making a fairly small surplus every year. Half of that we would put into what we call the Forever Yellow Fund, which is our contingency fund, addressing a crisis. The other half we were putting into community outreach or community events or opportunities. And in all honesty, that's partly because the club wouldn't talk to us, not saying they didn't want our money, but they wouldn't engage in conversations about putting any money directly into the club, not in a meaningful way. But we thought we should be promoting the club in the community. Things like sponsoring, for example, we sponsored the one of the teams run by the Community Sports Trust is the Inspirations, young lads, disabilities of various sorts. So one year we sponsored them and girls. I think we made a donation to a food bank one year, a fairly small donation, but things like that. Now that we've got this much closer relationship with the club, and we believe a club that is far more intent on getting involved in the wider community, we think our focus should be on assisting the club to achieve that rather than trying to do it ourselves. Yes, that's pretty much all I need to say on that. So again, I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts on that. We are starting to think about various ways we might be able to do that in conjunction with the club.
Can I just interrupt and say, in the club charter I wrote, it says this. This is under a section called Charity Policy. I'll just quickly read it. The club recognises the importance and hard work of charities and community fundraising groups around the Southwest and beyond, as well as the positive impact that the club can have in helping generate revenue for these causes. The club is committed to working with the local community and supporting local charities through the provision of club collateral for the purpose of fundraising, auctions and raffles. The club will have one dedicated recognised charity partner each season and will change on a seasonal basis. Our focus will be raising the visibility of the charity, helping raise funds through the partnership and providing opportunities to those involved within the charity. The club will endeavour to work closely with the charity to help them achieve their goals throughout their partnership. We will support charities, fundraisers, and individuals for good causes through assets we can provide, such as signed memorabilia, and more information can be found at the club's website. And finally, supporters will have an opportunity to nominate a charity of the year by emailing info@tust.co.uk. Supporters must provide an overview of the charity, and nominations will be reviewed in June for the following season. So June is just coming up. So get your thinking caps on if you want to nominate a charity.
I think to contextualise it, we must. I feel we need to emphasise that the majority of the money that has been going into community outreach has been going into Talk United related organisations like Community Sports Trust, like the disability team, like the women's team. I suppose the club are actually, as Nick related, are going to choose a charity every year and raise money for it. You as members possibly have to guide us, which we're going to come on to, where we focus our community engagement money. That's what I would say. And bear in mind, there are club-related organisations that need funding right now that the club can't provide the full support for. By doing it, we're helping the club because they're part of the club now. Community Sports Trust, the women's team, we're all part of the club now. We're all one organisation. I just wanted to say that. Don't mind me saying that. So, when we talk about charity, yes, there's that charity. There's a charity like ProCrop this year. There's also, inverted commas, the funding and helping of organisations within the club. So that's to think about, I suppose.
Sorry, can I just make one correction, Michelle?
Yeah,
just
sure.
to be absolutely clear, the Community Sports Trust is not part of the club. Yes, they're working together, but it's a completely separate charity. It's not part of it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Just on charities, a listener has commented that the awareness we did around prostate cancer is something that maybe we should look to continue with.
Yeah. Okay, final area of our strategy just to touch on briefly, and this is very similar to the community engagement. Part of our existing strategy was about engaging with local businesses. And again, that was largely because we didn't feel at the time the club was doing enough to promote itself in the business community. We tried to take a bit of a lead on that. We now feel that under the new regime, they're much more switched on to engaging with the business community, bringing in more sponsorship, etc. So we see our role as being supportive of them rather than trying to do anything, lead on anything ourselves. Does that sound reasonable? Good. Okay. That sort of brings us on to what's probably the meatiest part of the meeting, and that's considering how we should spend or use our resources going forward. So, first thing to say is, we're looking for discussion and feedback tonight, which we will then take away as a board and consider and make our decision on the detail of how much we might give to various opportunities. We're not asking this meeting to decide we give 10 grand to this group and £100 to that group, etc. Okay, so it's about the principles of where we should be focusing our efforts. So the starting point is we have prior to last year, over a number of years, we've created a small surplus of between £4,000 and £6,000 a year. As I said earlier, we're putting about half of that into the Forever Yellow contingency fund and using the rest for community outreach type. With the big increase in membership that we've had in the last 12 months, and hopefully we'll retain, which we're going to talk about in a minute, our income going forwards is greatly increased. So we're estimating our income over the next 3 years will average about £30,000 a year. Our running costs, our day-to-day admin costs of postage, advertising, the cost of collecting member subscriptions, insurances, printing, etc., are only about £5,000 a year. So setting aside any sponsorships and things we might have done in the past, we are estimating an annual surplus of between £20,000 and £25,000 a year. We're going to have quite a bit of money to devote to whatever causes we decide. Okay, so that's the starting point. That's the context on it. So let's consider some of the things that we might put that money to. And the first one is we have had an approach from the Community Sports Trust, backed up by the football club, to give some sponsorship to the Community Sports Trust to run their youth section. Okay. Some of you may be aware that the football club transferred the youth section, including the under-18s team, fully over to the Community Sports Trust last autumn, without providing a great deal, if any, financial backing for it. So the Community Sports Trust have had to take on the responsibility of running and funding those youth schemes. We are told that under the previous regime, the youth setup, particularly again the older age groups, were running at a cost or a loss of £38,000 a year, which the club, I think, were helping to cover, if not covering entirely. So, as I say, the Community Sports Trust have come to us and said, would you consider sponsoring the youth operation? Their ask is for £10,000 this coming year. We as a board are considering that, but we want your thoughts on it. Obviously, we're talking here about potential future players, but some way down the line. Perhaps important, actually, I'll put this into context. Our understanding is that the club cannot have will not have an academy or anything of that nature until we're back in the Football League. Partly because they won't get sufficient funding for it until they're in the league. Secondly, if they were to develop superstar of the future in the National League, there's nothing to stop another club coming along and taking him or her from the club.
Yeah.
But this supporting the youth set up within the Community Sports Trust all the coaches and things, everything that got to go on with that. And their intention is to retain an under-18 team in, I can't which league it is, but one of the leagues, all the admin fees for that, travel that goes with it, everything else. Something the Community Sports Trust is keen to do, and the club is keen for all the Community Sports Trust to do. But to achieve that, they need sponsorship, and there may be other sponsors, but they're asking, or they made an approach to us for £10,000. Okay. Probably best if I go on and talk about some of the other opportunities, then we can put them all in the melting pot and throw it open to the floor. If you're happy with that approach. We've had a request to sponsor the women's team. As I expect you're all aware, the women's team have now been brought in-house and are part of the football club. We understand that that is on the basis that the women's football team is self-financing and self-sustaining. What it will benefit from is the use of club resources, the use of club physio, etc., etc. But the intention is that it will not be drawing any money from the club. What the affiliation will do is give the women's team greater opportunity to go out and get sponsorship, raise its profile, and hopefully start to attract more supporters to the games. We, TUST, has provided a modest sponsorship to the women's team for some years. I haven't got the exact figures, but I don't think it's ever been more than £2,000.
Less
than that. So say about 1,500 max.
Yeah, normally between 1,000.
Shirts. So last year I know we sponsored the back of the shirts, which was I think 1,500.
Yes.
They're asking us this year for a sponsorship of £2,000 plus VAT, so 2,400. Completely different item, but we've got a scoreboard there. It doesn't work very well, and the club would like to replace it. We've had a proposal from the club on that. We haven't said anything about to indicate we were able to fund that. But we're told the cost of replacing the scoreboard is £25,000. But the club estimate the income it could generate from sponsorship and the like is around 20 grand a year. We've had an approach from the club to take a table in the Cove for pre-match meals. Now, this is an interesting one. There are various ways that table could be used. It could be used for TUST members to come along and meet one of us at that meeting. It could be used to engage with community organisations, bring them in for the meals. And well, various other ways of networking. But we are very aware of the way that might look to our members and the wider supporter base if TUST is seen to be spending money on hospitality. And so we're very wary of that. But you know, it's something that we're just sort of fresh to us. We're just discussing it at the moment. Again, welcome views on that. And then one other minor one is there are plans afoot to create a football club museum here downstairs, exactly where it is, going forwards. Obviously, there will be a cost involved in that, a fairly minimal cost, and we believe there's grants available for it, but it might be something that TUST could put a small amount of funding towards. So those are some of the ideas that we're looking at. We'd welcome comments on those or any other suggestions for things that TUST could be using its funds for. Obviously, we're expecting, as I said, in this coming year, surplus of 20,000 or so. We haven't got that from day one. There's a cash flow element to this, so we can't go out and do everything at once. But it's about the principles of what we should be investing our money in. Thank you.
Who's the first person going to say striker?
I'll say it. Can we not invest in it?
Can I just say I think we should prioritise the boys' youth team. It's ever so galling to hear very frequently about talky boys playing for extras, going to want being sold for massive transfer fees, benefit of neighbouring clubs, and that's really, we have obviously got a lot of talent in here, and I think if there's any money available for the youth, the boys' youth team, maybe in respect to the structure or whatever it is, I think that is a top priority, like myself. It's just a comment about there's no way of stopping youngsters moving to the club. I don't know how the clubs do it, whether there's some, you see a really bright lad, whether there's some sort of contract arrangement, find them at other clubs. That would be my priority.
Basically, there's nothing.
What's this?
Shall I just tell you that three of us went to meet three of the Community Sports Trust officials about 6-7 weeks ago, and I've got a list here of how they would spend the money if it were to be handed over to them. So just as an example, they would invest in higher level coaches to lead the youth teams, to separate the Community Sports Trust from competitors such as Saints Southwest and Juventus Academy Devon. They would change the league in which all the teams play in. Currently, they play in the DJM League, which has £100 entry per team. But for 25-26, they'll be looking to move them to the Junior Premier League, as it's a better standard. But the costs of entry per team for that league is £350 against £100. But it'd be a higher quality, better quality playing. My dream has always been that we produce at least a £1 million player that the club takes benefit from at some point in the future. And that's never going to happen if we all just sit in our hands and say, oh, golly, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't have an academy because we're not in the football league. Well, let's do the best that we can do while we're not in the football league. And then once we're in the football league, then let's go for it. So if they need some money, then they need some money.
Just to say how right you are, I don't know if anyone else saw it, but there was a lad from Paynton Academy signed for Exeter, 16-year-old boy signed for Exeter yesterday.
It's falling, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it's just Paynton should be coming here.
It's a matter of interest. They've signed 10 under-18 players, and 6 of them are TQ poster. It's horrible.
Yeah, but they're a football league club.
Well,
We're not.
Which is even more reason why we should support them.
Yeah. Well, the youth of in anything, like the youth who come and watch the matches and the youth of the footballers are the future, aren't they? I'm not going to be around forever. We need younger people to take over from us. So it just works in all walks of life.
What is our influence in the schools, Nick?
Well, Harry Lovering, one of our board members, he's a school teacher. He and I don't think I'm giving any secrets away. He and Anna Henderson, Guy Henderson's daughter, she's also a school teacher. So they've been getting together, and we're trying to work with the club to get players to go into the schools as a regular thing, to sort of get the association between local primary and secondary schools with the football club, so that these children, their form mates come and watch a match at Plainmoor. I mean, a lot of them do. I mean, they sit at the front of the family stand at home matches, and we just want to develop that because they're the future of the club, aren't they? None of us are going to be around forever.
I think as well that the Community Trust, that is one of their remits.
Yeah.
That they encourage the players to go in. And as we know, the previous regime, that wasn't happening. But we've got to make sure that it's not muddled between the parent club and the Community Trust. The
Yeah, sure.
That's one way.
Yeah, we have been working with the community, so we're not doing this like we're not going off on our own, and so we are doing it in conjunction.
It had been in the past.
Yeah, no, we're working together. Yeah, sure.
Nick, I think the biggest thing that we need to try and do is, I mean, I'm wholeheartedly behind what you said. I think that's got to be the focus is on the youth setup. But somehow we've got to try and create a pathway so that young kids, when they come in, that they can see that they could end up on that pitch at some point. Because if you can get young kids coming and watching the game and then joining the Community Sports Trust and joining all the football teams, when Exeter City come calling, it's like, no, I'm a Torquay United boy. I want to play on that pitch. Somehow we've got to try and create that, because I think if we don't, we might just end up sort of putting money into something and then still Exeter City and everybody else cream it off. So there's got to be a bit of focus on that, I think.
Well, if Danny were here sitting next to me this evening instead of training, she would say that if you read your Herald Express yesterday, and the column I write. So he came here as an 8-year-old, watched the football for the first time. He fell in love with the football and Playmore at age 8. And she said her dream was to play at Playmore and score a goal. And she scored 2 last Sunday. So she achieved her dream. So when I was head of schools, I always said to the children in assemblies, fairly regularly, you know, you've got to reach for the stars. Reach for the stars. Everyone, all of you sitting in front of me, you've all got dreams and aspirations and hopes that you're going to do this, this, and this. Well, believe it. You know, if you believe it, you're going to achieve it. And she's just done that as a fantastic example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
We'll go in the corners.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Lots of online comments, so I will quickly go through them. Ian said, I've been in discussions with Hartlepool United, who are one of the few clubs who ran a Cat 4 academy. Oh. Excuse me. I've got too many messages here. Can I just remind you to repeat questions from the floor, Mr. Chairman, as well?
I'll have 100 lines. I must remember.
Yeah. Please give them to me at the end. Yeah.
Okay, right.
So our priority should be to return to the EFL, and he would like to explore the option. Sean Tanner said youth development is a must. Kevin said the school board idea could be a good TUST recruitment asset. Offer to fund the difference between revenue and costs, maybe. Sean disagreed with that. Stuart said youth development is essential, but only if the club can get the sell-on fee. The goalie a couple of years ago walked away and we got nothing. Ian said Plymouth are looking to move to a Cat 2 academy status, and Exeter is in Door Centre. And an analysis short Cat 2 a Cat 4 model would allow us to pick up any of the under 16 talent that falls out. Ash said, I think youth is the major way forward. However, I would want to see an outline of what the money would be used for. Also, some info on the league they're going to join and how to follow their results. Stuart said, need to protect the investment, no guarantee of return. Ian said, we need to look at improving the scouting network across Cornwall, Devon, Somerset and Dorset too. Jonathan said, youth investment is vital. Kevin said, speak up.
Whoops. Sorry.
Ian said Devon County FA didn't have a single representative in the southwest side at the regional England schoolboys team trials. Ash said I'd rather concentrate on youth and ladies for 3 years. Good on him. If the scoreboard is budgeted at 25,000, it will bring in 20,000 revenue. We could possibly underwrite 5,000 in first year, was his idea. Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, there's lots to think about there. Wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Go on.
Going on to what Matt said, when I was in primary school, we used to do a thing called the Beauty Cup. That was, I still don't know if that's around anymore, but I played at the Beauty Cup playing more. It's me, that was me playing at Wembley. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's still around or if it's still a thing. But if you see the markers on the pitch now, set out the pitches. So if you've done this, you can do it.
I think, mate, because I'm a taxi driver, so I was around here the last few days. There's been a million kids here the last couple of days. So I think there must have been some sort of school tournament on it. But it's perfect, isn't it? This time of year, get them on.
Beauty Cup, not final, but held here.
Yeah.
He played, but the all season, the knockout situation was going on. It ended up with the final was in the centre.
So does that cup still exist?
Yes.
Does it still operate?
Yeah, the schools have different size school league. Within each league, they have finals. Then there's a knockout, which is the Beauty Cup, and they all used to be on a one day. I don't know if you've been under the previous regime, it seemed to peter out, but they all used to come up here and have a finals day.
Yeah.
Loudspeaker on and a good crowd. And a lot of my kids, I was a teacher and I was involved in the schools. A lot of my kids ended up, that's just a coincidence, but playing for the Torquay youth team and 3 or 4 of them signed Gross. Didn't quite make it, but one did make it. But the point was, it sort of got them to fall. There's another way of getting kids to fall in love with playing ball, really. Yeah, on the pitch. The club are starting it because we're now seeing kids on the pitch, aren't we? Before the mascots had a game at half time match. I think that will move forward. I think Harry will be pushing for that sort of thing as well. Harry Lovery. Good to remind us.
Okay, if we collate a lot of the things that you've had online, I don't know, have you been writing them down?
It's all recorded, Nick.
Oh, okay, you're right. So what's going through my mind is that some of the things that we just heard in the last 5 minutes aren't just for TUST board, they are for the football board.
Yeah.
So I think there's quite a few things there that I think for our next football board meeting, I would like to use to promote. Did they hear that? Did I speak up loud enough?
No one's moaning yet.
Oh, good. Right. Yeah. Those were the right.
Are there any other thoughts on how we might spend our money? The other things we talked about.
Should we mention railings?
Oh, the railings. Yeah. Some of you who are in Bristow's, the whole season I've had people coming up to me saying, "Are we going to have any extra railings in Bristow's to come right down?" Because there's been so many. I mean, ironically, I mean, the Bristow stand is the one that's used by the older generation, and it's the hardest one to climb up the stairs to get into your seat. You think, "Oh my God, you need a lift." Anyway, so the compromise is to extend the railings down as low as they will go. So I've managed to succeed in that, and we're paying for the railings to be done this close season. Hooray! £3,240 plus money.
You heard it here first.
And online.
Previous paid for the electric chair.
Electric chair.
Bit harsh.
George Edwards is gone.
Yeah.
Oh, you're giving us ideas.
That's interesting to hear that. So I didn't know that.
No, right. Wow.
Yeah. I actually used it. It was a year I was wheelchair bound, and it was great to be able to hop on that and get up to the.
Remember that book?
That's before my
actually paid for the.
Yeah, that was before my time.
Was it?
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know if you're going to ask this anyway, Rick, but is it worthwhile with those sort of key headings that you've mentioned, that just to get a flavour of thoughts in the room, whether you just ask for a show of hands as to who would kind of for each one, just so you've got a steer as to where you might go. Because if there's like one area where no one's interested, you can always cross that off the list straight away.
That's a good idea. And I think,
oh yeah, go on.
I think none of us are surprised. There's a lot of support for backing the youth. And that's clearly something that's for the direct benefit of the club potentially, and it ticks all the boxes in terms of community engagement, getting kids involved, and everything else. But I'm happy to do your suggestion on that. So keeping it as simple as possible, we've not to any final decisions here, just a matter of the principle. Who would support us sponsoring the Community Sports Trust Youth Programme? That's pretty much unanimous. Okay. Who would support a modest investment of say $2,000 to $2,500 to sponsor the women's team? Anyone strongly against that? Good. Scoreboard, that's a tricky one. I mean, obviously we're not going to have the funds to pay for that in full, certainly not for a couple of years. But the principle of making some sort of contribution to renewing the scoreboard, if the club could afford to do it, that's something you think we should back? The electronic scoreboard, on the basis that the club estimator will make a return.
Probably the club should put that money in there, should they? They think they can get everything but £5 back the first year.
Yeah.
That's good business.
One would have thought so. Okay. Joe.
The question on the scoreboard, 170,000 that we raised with the garage, the scoreboard was mentioned as one of the new as a result. So where was the 270? Is there any detail on where that went? Those who invested in them.
Yeah.
How that was spent.
That's a good question.
We don't know the answer.
We don't know the answer at the moment. We
it's going to fill a big black hole. Sorry, I'm being facetious. The one thing I was just going to mention, I just suddenly remembered it, is the club have applied for the Football Foundation Fund. I don't think I'm giving any secrets away. If the club puts in 30% of the money and their bid is accepted, the club could get a maximum of £200,000 for the floodlights, because the floodlights, every time a bulb goes, it costs an astronomical amount of money to replace just one single bulb each time.
650 quid.
650 quid.
And also the Football Foundation Fund would help improve some of the toilets and some of the seats, probably the ones in the family stand that have seen better days. Now, whether that could also include the scoreboard, I'm not sure. It might be possible that that could be included as well. So the club's put in this bid for this foundation fund, and they're waiting to find out if they're successful.
I'll just put the other point of view on the scoreboard. I didn't see any hands go up, so I think the sort of overall context with this club still is that it is still losing money. Yeah. I think the best they're looking to do is break even, quite honestly. I do take your point about actually if it's going to make money, why shouldn't the club do it? But we as a trust, hopefully, if people keep paying their subs, we are going to have £25,000 a year to spend, of which we're going to put £2,000 away for a rainy day still. So I think the money is there potentially over 2 or 3 years to pay for that thing. So I just thought I'd mention that. Really, we're not awash with cash, but we have got a substantial amount that we're able to put into things that members feel are a good idea every year now. Rob?
Aside from the electronic scoreboard, the clock's not worked in the family staff for years, and it is literally a clock. It can't be that difficult to replace.
Yes.
Yeah, stop. But it does need fabrication.
You saying about our sheet?
I think Moose has left us.
And the floodlight. Can we go to Rob? He's from Wales.
Yeah, just a question online from another Rob actually. Talked about sponsoring walking football and said you would know what he meant.
I declare an interest here because I play walking football. Rob is a member of the Walking Football Club, as I was going to ask if he was here, whether or not that's something else that the trust should sponsor. What I have to say is that the Walking Football Group comes under the Community Sports Trust in any event, albeit what we're talking about is sponsoring the youth element. But unless anyone feels that we should be specifically putting a significant amount of money into it, I think it's something we might look at on a small scale, but not as a major strategic item. Just in case anyone doesn't know, I will say this: the walking football team, the Community Sports Trust runs Torquay and I do walking football, and they run 4 teams in the Devon League. The Devon League has 4 divisions, and they run 4 teams. And the Torquay and I do walking football first team have won the league for the last 5 or 6 seasons. They've won it this season without being defeated. One of their players, Don Ford, represented England at the World Cup for walking football last August at the Burton Play Centre, and they won it. The Torquay United actually have a World Cup winner playing walking.
Really?
What can I just something Kai said there. I'm not dropping anyone in here. I joined I've never had
a direct debit? Well, if it's direct debit, it should do it.
Very monthly.
You'd be surprised if I don't do that actually in my house.
Yeah.
I'll ask Rhiannon when I see her.
I can take one off, like, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I can look at the
Yeah.
name.
I didn't know if there was any.
You can backdate it 2 years if you want.
But we'll have to look at it is all manual. So what I try to do if someone pays just one off payment is I put it into my calendar. I need to remind this person that they need to pay in a year. Which
Only 24 quid, Mark.
Yeah.
It's all right.
it can be a bit difficult.
Right.
Plus interest.
In a way, Mark's question is very timely. It's what leads us into the next topic. It's about, we've talked already about ways memberships increase. It currently stands at 1,101 or whatever it is. One of our concerns is keeping those members. So, Bob, I think you're going to say.
Yeah. So as I say, one of the things we've been talking about on the board is how can we retain our membership. If we want to remain a democratic, functioning democratic supporters group, we need to retain our old members that we've always had, and also the new members that have joined since the community share issue. So this is about retaining the members so that we can represent a wider spectrum of the fan base as possible. So what we thought is on the board that in order to do this, we need to communicate with our members and also listen to our members. So what we're putting to you this evening is how you think we can achieve these 2 goals. How do you think we can listen to you? How do you think we can communicate with you? And at the same time, is there anything we're already doing that you want us to continue doing that we're doing right? Over to you.
It's a loaded question.
Or new ideas.
Or new ideas, yeah. That's what we really.
The emails that we get, from Nick, just keeping us updated, talking about how the football went and other things. I think that's a good idea. It reminds me that I am a member, because I've paid my money and I've forgotten about it. I get the emails and I think, oh yeah, reminds me to get involved.
Yeah.
So I think we should keep doing those.
Go.
Retain members, people want to see an output and that you're representing supporters. So lots of good stuff that's happening from the TUST board. I think you need to shout about it a bit more, really raise the profile.
Yeah.
I don't think we should just be looking to retain. I think we should grow. I mean, Exeter City have 5,000 members. Every year they give £100,000 to the football club. There's 5,000 people, albeit from at the end of the season, but being a member of the Sports Trust for £2 a month, everyone should want to do that. And I feel people don't because they may not feel that their views are represented or that they're not getting that feedback that they're really key, that the feedback loop shows that every fan in this stadium is being represented at board level by the TUST board and our appointed directors. So sharing outputs from the United board, I know there's lots of confidential matters that wouldn't be able to be shared, but the newsletter sort of giving a summary of those things that can be shared and what the TUST board are achieving as well will help hopefully grow.
And hopefully a meeting like tonight's is part of the growing sort of, I mean, more people were allowed, could have come tonight and more people could be online if they chose to. It's a start, isn't it?
Is there any move to try and encourage international supporters? I mean, we've got a lot of supporters all over the world these days. I mean, maybe there's some sort of international promotion or something that you could do specific for those. I'm sure that if you send it out to ordinary members, we could possibly say, well, we know somebody that lives in France or Germany or wherever.
On the point of international stuff is the new lottery that's been set up. Anybody in the world can play that. So we were hoping that we would get a few of the Americans and a few of the Norwegians and stuff that we know about.
But do they know about it?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's another story together. But we're hoping that the club would promote it a bit more than they might have done.
Yeah.
I think once we get the matchday ambassadors up and running as well, they can help to be apostles for increased membership as well. I think
the presence on the match day, isn't it?
And there are lots of initiatives you can do through those ambassadors as well.
The club could do more to promote.
That's what would there be like some sort of incentive that the club could say a pound off of a programme or something if you were a TUST member?
I have it in mind to ask if it's possible to start a digital programme for, well, particularly for TUST members who can't get here on match days because they don't live here. And it might well be that, you're talking about your international people, that a lot of people like programmes. If they get it on a digital version as well as a hard copy that when you come to the ground, if both are available, that would be something, wouldn't it? And I think also I may mention that one of the topics that we discussed at the last football board meeting was the use of Play More Green. And I know that the club have been in consultation with the council about using the green. And the last I heard was that if the club puts forward some proposals for use of the green or for certain home games for a fan zone, then the council would be pleased to hear about them. But I think it's possible that there could be more regular fan zones out on the green in the good weather. So hopefully for the beginning of maybe the pre-season friendlies or first few league fixtures in August and September when the weather's still okay. So hopefully that would be good. Because the one that we had for the Boreham Wood semi-final game, it was absolutely amazing because when I used to live here yonks ago, I mean, if we went down to like Fleet Street when it was Fleet Street, not the new version, if you saw children walking around, they were walking around in Liverpool shirts or Man United shirts. Well, now you see all the kids running around in Torquay United shirts, which is a huge, huge difference. That goes back to what we were saying earlier this evening at the meeting about how important it is to encourage the youth to come to play more.
I understand there's a fan zone already being organised for one of the pre-season friendlies.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, just a couple of points online. Stuart said we need to add value to TUST membership and said, could we have discounts from local businesses.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, and someone said we need to increase members both inside and outside of Devon. So that's expanded on previous points. So it's just flicked up. Ashto said, I would think a lot of the new members of the last year joined because the club was in danger. As they think that danger recedes, they might review their payment unless they are given reason.
Yeah, we're aware of that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing, just in relation to that, we need to perhaps publicise that you have to be a member in order to vote. So if you be a shareholder of TUST, so and to have your say, so you need to keep up your membership in order to vote. For example, who's on the board and so on, and you vote.
Just a thought. This might be not possible, but this is probably for you, Rob. So I was going to ask you a difficult question. Right? So, from a communication point of view, how easy or difficult would it be for TUST to create? This is probably more aimed at the younger generation, but to have its own app. Because I'm thinking with communications, if you had an app and like your newsletters and everything went on that app, and you have a notification, there's like a new newsletter. The younger generation are more likely to look at apps on their phone than they are emails or bits of paper that come out to them.
It's funny you say that, really, because me and Joe are looking at revamping the whole of the TUST website. So there's probably some way, shape, or form somehow where that could be a little square on your phone.
Yeah.
And you get the little red one when a newsletter pops up or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not exactly Mr. Technology, but there's got to be a way, and usually if there is a way, we find a way of doing it.
But also anything you can put on there, like voting and things like that, you can do through the app. You know, it just encourages people to be looking on their phone all the time and looking at TUST.
Yeah.
It's just a reminder, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something we can look at. There's got to be a way of doing it, because, I mean, everyone's got an app, don't they?
Yeah.
Even if sometimes if it's just a link to the website through a little square on your phone.
Yeah.
It's just there all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Just before I'll let you talk in a minute. When we went to play Enfield Town, Enfield Town are the first team to be fully owned by fans. They have I found all this out when I went there. They have a gold package where their members pay £35 a month. But that pays for their season ticket, match day programme, free drink, access to online videos. Not quite sure what those are.
But they got a high membership though, haven't they?
£40 club shop voucher. And they have a silver package and a senior stroke student package as well. So I don't know, there are other clubs out there. I mean, there's no point in reinventing the wheel. If other clubs are doing similar things and you can learn from what other clubs are doing, you might as well copy them.
Well, yeah, we've been away from you, and we've seen what they've had to offer, and we're surprised that we're not offering, and we're a bigger club than they have been.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the things that I
go on.
remember from years ago is that they used to produce like a big sort of calendar, which used to be posted up in the shops locally with all the fixtures on.
Yeah.
And they used to go around to all the hotels, and so a lot of visitors that are coming down for weekends and things think, oh, we're about to play one, and you can often pick up.
Yeah.
You know, these, particularly if they're youngsters, it's the first game they've ever been to, and they have this allegiance to the club, and they come down on holiday. So again, it's something back for the main club.
Yeah, no, I agree absolutely.
John, member of that, and we used to distribute them to Lady Safe. This hotel.
It's a no-brainer, really. I mean, you know, it cost of some printing and you know
sponsorship all around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Rosewell Gardens. Yeah.
Yeah, and so people coming into Torquay.
Yeah. I think they have asked about putting that back there, but the land belongs to someone else now. I think that
Is there a minimum age requirement?
Yeah.
16. Is that bound by some rules?
Yeah.
For instance, AFC Wimbledon have a young dons trust membership where they pay pretty much similar, but as they're young kids, they get lots of perks, meet the players, etc. And then just bringing your next wave of TUST.
I think you would be an ideal Father Christmas for a Christmas party.
Is that a supporters club rather than a trust? TUST.
AFC Wimbledon Sports Trust.
I think there's the original trust, the junior trust, which was run. We used to do events. I was saying we had a Christmas party. We used to take them and play laser golf. It was young members affiliated, run by the trust. Remember that one?
That's before my time.
I remember back a bit, but it's getting volunteers to run.
Yeah.
That's what we've done.
Yeah. And I think there is scope. Our rules are that full trust membership is only open to 16-year-olds. Only they get a vote.
Maybe they don't get a vote.
There is scope for doing some sort of affiliated subsection for juniors. We have touched on it briefly in the past. I think something we ought to revisit.
Yep. Ian's full of ideas at the moment. He's mentioned, could there be a junior TUST board? Could there be a WhatsApp group? And he also asked, where will the club membership sit and what impact could that have on TUST membership?
Well, we don't know the answer to that because the club membership plan is still in the making.
Thank you.
But I think it's fair to say, Nick, you're obviously, in your role as director, you're involved in those discussions.
There haven't been any so far, but I know it's sort of like on the list of things that need to be discussed.
Just to clarify that, I think the club were proposing to introduce some sort of membership scheme some weeks, if not months ago. It's been kicked down the road. Detail that hasn't been.
You could maybe, we've all got membership numbers, maybe do a quarterly draw or something to give that member something back, maybe a meal in the Cove, on a match day, something like that. As an incentive to be a member.
I guess we've always been, which is a great idea, but we've always been careful that we don't want to look like we're just wasting money on food or beer, but once a quarter, like you say, worth thinking about.
Trying to get people to join the TUST so that they support the club, and then they'll support it in other ways as well. Come in, have a meal that they've won, and then think, well, that was really good,
and they'll buy a pint or
and then bring other people with them.
Sure. Don't have the club to promote TUST. Look on the website, and there's nothing physical on there. I know it's mentioned in the fans forum with Michael that they were going to redevelop the website. There's nothing physical on there that says about TUST. So.
I think that there is a new club website coming. Am I right, Nick?
Yeah.
So it is all sort of being knocked down and rebuilt, sort of thing. So because the old one's just a mess.
Have they liaised with the board, TUST board, on what we would like on that?
Not yet.
Oh, yeah.
That will be the plan.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, you're seeing that communication.
But yeah.
So your suggestion of a meal in the Cove, that was one of the things we haven't sort of had a vote on.
Yeah.
When we were talking about how to spend our money. So there was, as Rick said, one of the possibilities was to have a table in here for the season. So what's people's views about that?
I think the optics.
Yeah.
I think you're on a high.
Yeah.
2 or 3 people.
Just quickly, have you got a target? 12 months for the size of membership, 1,500 or 2,000? Because I think I agree with what the people. If you made a great start, you've got whacking goodwill behind it. I would have thought that 1,500 would probably be achievable.
Well, as I said in my introduction at the beginning, I mean, we're really grateful to the 1,141 that we've already got. I suppose if I'm being candid, a worry would be that if we're perceived to be at fault over the season ticket issue, that some people might decide that they don't wish to be TUST members. There is a danger that people will say, well, you haven't done anything about the season tickets and you're not doing anything about it. And the answers that you gave earlier this evening is rubbish, sort of thing. So I don't know. But I mean, 1,500 would be brilliant. If we could get 1,500, I mean, we'd all be dancing down the street.
You know what, Nick? I don't think that season is damaging. There's a few it affects you. And how can they mow, when they're occupying a 20 people for 1.89 It's unfortunate, that, we're talking economics and sustainability. They've got away with it for years. I don't think you're going to pick up a load of that. But I just think it's good to hit it, get the membership up. You're on a roll, the club's doing well, push it.
Fact is as well, like you said, social media. Same people who are moaning about their season tickets going. Same people in the next saying, oh, we should be signing League One players. The economics of it, just say, this is a business. It's not, although it's here for our enjoyment, people running it best they can for us. And you're not going to get League One, League Two players on one hand, period. But everything has gone up. And someone else, I think you just said they've had it too good for too long, which is exactly right. That's exactly how it's been. And it's never going to be perfect for everyone. It's as simple as that. But the way the club is at the moment, I think to boost the membership, certainly in TUST, clubs as high as it's ever been. Now's the time to push things like membership and all these things. I think people are on a bit of a high. I wouldn't even entertain talking about people who've had their nose put out of joint because their season tickets gone up. There's nobody, surely, or 1% that are actually unhappy with the way the club's being run. And if that's the case, well, up and up the road.
The big question, because I agree with both of you. The big question is how, isn't it? How do we get that membership up? Because the big jump has come with the community share issue and the crisis. Now we're at that level of like everybody kind of thinks everything's okay now. There's got to be something that we've got to make the membership attractive for new people to join, isn't it? And that's an answer to the question.
It's got to remain relevant.
Yes.
The TUST board ever engaged with someone with experience in marketing that promote and use a small amount of the sums. A bit like the scoreboard, would spend a little bit, but you'll get membership back. I know the club work with marketing people, they maybe some partnership.
I think we delved into it a few years ago and put out a couple of feelers, but to independent marketing people, they weren't really very keen. I think it's quite a. I was just thinking, like, if every single member we went and got one person to sign up.
Yeah.
How good would that be? Like, by selling the story, by saying, because like so many of my mates who all think, oh, there's 5,500 people, the club's fine. Just, I don't know, if we had some sort of campaign, just sign one member or something like that.
What Paul says about they could be promoting the trust, and not only that, the club, they've got the email address of everybody. They could stuff out that way. See a season, not being a member of the trust. They've spent a load of money, and it's in their interest that they're getting the best value for money. Now, why wouldn't they try and help the club? They've already forked out a load.
Yeah. So maybe that could be on the club website as a box to tick. Do you want to join TUST at the same time as a season ticket?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I write a column in it.
It's a very good one too.
Maybe you can have a little boxing program. Become a member of TUST, a little bit about it, and then your email address, the QR code.
Yeah, QR code, isn't it?
Once the new screen's up and running, we can have
I've got
advertisers.
I've got a small number of QR codes here. If anybody wants to pick one up on your way out to give to your mates, please feel free.
So that's what I've always been in favour of us doing something with the scoreboard. Then it can be the scoreboard, and we can put our logo up there, along with advertising from various businesses around the bay as
and
well.
some useful information of the game as well.
Yes,
Just put the teams on there.
Yeah.
No. Other people use their scoreboards far better than we, even when we had one.
Yeah, it's broken. That's the problem. Yeah. Rob.
Yep. Two comments. One from Stuart saying, obviously, a lot of us joined because we were worried about the club, and maybe the new focus ought to be on building for the future as TUST. And KB said, exiles have to be the key market, and maybe that's a way of them feeling involved with the club by being part of the TUST.
Yeah. Also, it's worth saying the outreach being done in the community immediately around this place as well, which clearly are impacted not just by traffic on a match day, but the building being here and not actually wanting the club to do well, wanting to progress. And Nick, you've started doing your new column for the local community magazine as well, trying to reach out to them as well, got a stake in the club's success or otherwise. When they live right next door as well. The reason I know Nick's doing that column is because the guy delivers it around the stadium. But again, it's that as well, not just those who always come together, but also those who've got quite a stake in the club doing well and being a success. Because they live, let's be honest, stone's throw of it. And so also some of the communication as well. Without delivering the last one, I got some views on outside there from someone who thought it was in the tarmac for a car park, when Matt the fan showed exactly what the club had in mind, and great feeling. Yeah, that being a lot better, it's a lot better for the community for the rest of the week, not just for the fans.
One last thing. There's an idea about sort of retaining membership, that the people in the room and online are a good demographic too, because you've bothered to come here, you're interested. So up the road, do what they call roundtable events. So members of the trust are invited. So they apply and they're invited. I'm not sure whether it's done on a lottery basis, whether it's first come, first served. And I think there's 10 members with 2 board members, and they just sit around and have a discussion. So it would probably be at the club. I just wondered whether that's something you think would be worthwhile.
The club board.
That's cool.
Coming to meet.
Yeah.
Might be good to have a mix, club and TUST.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
Have it basically.
Yes. Yeah. It was just an idea that I read a community document that they put out, and it just seems it's something that's very popular with them. But as you say, they've got 4,000 members, we've got 1,000. So whether it can generate enough interest.
I do think there needs to be some form of, the incentive for the upsurge in membership is obvious. Whenever I can't think about when it was. So we know why a lot of people join them. But I do think that there needs to be more than just advertising to become a TUST member. I think there needs to be just some sort of little incentive
Yeah.
to say, if you are a member, then this is what. It doesn't necessarily need to cost a lot of money, but it's just something for people to go, oh, that's that's good. Because once you've got, I think, people hooked, then they will stay. But it's just drawing them in the first place.
Yeah, because one of the things is that the reason we did these rewards and benefits, which is still going on,
yes,
is that if you are an investor, you're a member, which means you get a vote saying how the trust is run. But if you're investor, but also if you're an ordinary member, you also get one vote. You have as much say as an investor, which is why we had the rewards and benefits. So they do. If people join now, they will still have, or they will have, say.
What happens? What would happen if you had 10% off a drink in the bar?
Yeah, I mean, so just something like that. I think rather than I understand what you're saying, Bob.
Yeah.
You know, getting the vote, but that doesn't.
No, I know.
So if every trust member had a membership card, so some of us way back have got them, and newer ones don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
But if you had a card, you could hand over at the bar, and you get 10% off.
Yeah, I mean something like that, even if it was just the one seat. I think it would just. It definitely
would that be enough of an incentive?
Exeter City tend to do that kind of thing, don't they? They also have a draw to do with people's birthdays, and they get invited.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask Exeter City. I was just thinking, like, obviously when they went to crisis, 3,000 joined overnight, didn't they? But now they've stayed at 5,000. They're up to 5,000. Is that because they're 100% fan-owned that they've kept at that? You know, but they've sold players for £1 million. So why haven't people dropped out and think, oh, we're all right now? What have they done?
I think once people join, they will probably, unless some financial crisis deems otherwise. But I think people would stay for the amount of money that it does cost to join.
Yeah.
I know it can be whatever you want it to be.
Because the other thing is not just 10% off at the bar, but as Joe said earlier, not all season ticket holders are TUST members. So, so if you had also 10% off in the shop, that might make a difference.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
How does the club feel about that?
They might go against their membership scheme as well, mightn't they?
Yes.
Benefit the trust, but it wouldn't financially benefit the club.
But ultimately, it would be as a football club if
we'd have more money, and
if we had more money, we can invest more money into the football club.
I think the problem is like I think before, the 5,700 for 5 games. I saw it. Club snilling crisis, really. What people don't get, you know, though we had a big sign up for just when we thought it was in crisis. Well, guess what? It hasn't changed really. And like the merits of trying to get more people into the trust, great, and this is the time to do it. But I think it needs to be something a bit more dynamic than 10% off.
Yeah,
I think you want to either buy into it being your club, want to support it, follow it through thing, or which. But I think token. If a go to a pub, they put the price up by 50, still go there. So taking off 50, I don't think that's going to drag people in because I don't think it's.
I think it's just that initial getting people signed up.
We even judge
to say Exeter intrinsically link their membership in the trust to boosting the budget by 100 grand, and that's the message. All the fans know about it. The clubs sing about it. I know it's different because they're hundreds. No, they intrinsically link it. You intrinsically link boosting trust membership to either boosting the budget or boosting youth football or all those things. And doubt about it. It will boost. If people know their £2 a month is going towards the next star, you know, you just got to shout about it and market it in that way.
Can I?
Yeah, I was just an idea I was thinking about the way you talk. Is there any way we can like a gift so you can gift fellow supporters who aren't that they go Christmas present, birthday, wedding present, gift them a membership. Is there any way that could be done?
Like people sponsor a donkey or something.
Yeah.
Not good enough. Don't talk about it. Back to Striders again.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
You've got all the members.
That's what I was saying about that plus one.
Yeah,
If we all
plus one.
found one, I could. I
You gotta go find one to somebody, all the members.
Right, that's Hazel's.
Yeah.
Right. Can I suggest one final comment?
Sorry, can I just backtrack what Nick was on about your field about having a table on match days? Who's actually in beer with us now? Well, Nick's got an idea of what we feel. Is there anybody in favour of us table on match day? Will it cost you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we're paying for all the meals.
Well, the initial right. The initial price for a table for 8 in here for every home game for the coming season would be £9,000. Probably, yes. But there's a but coming. But Sharon has given me a deal.
At price.
I think. I don't think we need to go into detail.
Yeah.
I think,
I think you should.
Well,
The club are asking you.
yeah, but hang on a minute. I think.
Hang on, if you're going to have a table in here and the club are saying we would like X amount for it, I think as trust members, A, we should know, and B, we should have a show of hands for it.
Okay, my answer to that is I think we have had, or we can have a show of hands on the principle. Yeah, my only reservation is there's commercial sensitivity to what the club's offered us in way of a discount.
But it's still going to cost us over £5,000.
Yes.
Then that's just a silly.
I'm reading the room. Yeah, I'm reading the room. There's clearly no appetite in the room, unless we as a TUST board thought it's the right thing and we were able to put forward a constructive argument for memberships.
£5 grand, Doctor.
I'll go a bit further. I think they're kind of taking the piss a bit, to be honest, asking for 5.
Well, yeah, well, obviously, like nobody wants to vote for it.
Not been popular.
The money would
In
go
it.
back.
You know, I mean, come on.
Well, I think
One of them.
Can I answer that question?
agree.
The board hasn't had the opportunity to discuss it fully yet. We've been made aware of the club's desire, and it's only literally in the last couple of days that we've had this revised offer. I can say that I know the board members have different views on this, differing views on this, and a number of them feel the same way as I'm reading in the room.
But remember, we would be putting money into the club.
Surely, I mean, the Cove has been sold out most weeks.
That's the point. That's the point I make. The other point is the Cove is selling out.
It's selling out.
So why would we want to discount it?
Yeah.
So the answer to your question, Mark, is no. Sorry, never asked it. No, the board haven't yet had a full discussion about this. If and when we do, we'll be taking account of the views in the room and on Zoom.
We'd like to show of hands on basic principle, not the money.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we've had it. We can do it next time. I mean, does anyone think it's a good idea?
Okay, that goes online as well.
Sure.
Okay. Can I just summarise the last 15 minutes discussion? I think it's interesting. I certainly learned from it. When I talked earlier about our figures and our projected income and surpluses, we as a board had a discussion about what did we think the membership was going to be. And in all honesty, our fear, mentioned, is losing members. So we arrived at the assumption that we're going to try and retain 1,100. Listening to the comments in the room tonight, I'm taking on board we ought to be more proactive. We ought to be looking to increase the membership, and that ought to be part of our strategy.
Yeah.
I think meetings like this.
Yeah.
Because people, you're obviously more engaged in it. The only reason Sam, they're the same people. They're the same people. Somewhere in the way, get emails.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why that is, because the email went out to all the members' email address we've got, and if it's undelivered, we get a bounce back. And there were a couple which we then resent, but we didn't get masses of undelivered. So whether or not it's gone into the possibility, it might go into junk mail or something.
We check them all the time.
So I'm not sure why that is.
The MailChimp?
It's a strange one.
No, did it on.
Why can you do that?
What's MailChimp?
Because they unsubscribe.
So the news, don't want to get too technical here,
Well,
the weekly newsletter that goes out with Nick's fan zone,
Yeah.
that goes through something called MailChimp. But a lot of members have unsubscribed from that. They don't get those mails. When it's an important thing like the AGM or this meeting, we send it to all the email addresses, not using MailChimp, we use the TUST email. Okay,
So
all right.
that would be interesting.
Yeah, I do know a number of people didn't get it for some reason, so we need to look into that.
I think another thing we could do with that is use the socials more as well.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And yeah.
maybe we can do both MailChimp and email,
sure.
get it twice.
Yeah, again, it's an area of communications. We recognise it. We've got to do some work on top of it.
Just very quickly, renewal membership. Do you have to send out reminders, or can it be like your house in car insurance? You just carry on if they go?
Direct debits will just carry on,
The vast majority of members, I think I'm right.
or standing orders.
The vast majority are on direct debit.
Yeah.
There's only a few who pay by cash or check, and we have to.
Yeah, no.
Checks cash, it's literally a manual, and it's like really hard because I have to put in the date when it runs out. I work full time. I put it in there, and then I mark it in red, and then I've got to say, it's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. But
So about standing. Set your own set. The individual sets of
yeah, standing order. I mean, these days we do have more control with direct debits because I can just cancel any direct debit on the phone. So, but standing order is. I mean, I do try to go through the standing orders and check that everyone's still paying their standing order, because obviously if someone can stop their standing order, I don't get a notification for that. So
while we're on the subject, actually, can I make a plug? If anyone's on monthly standing order direct debit and they can afford to pay annually, please do so, because we pay a charge for the collecting of money, and it's the same charge whether it's once in a year or 12 charges for monthly collection. So it's much more beneficial for us if you can afford to do so.
How do we do that?
cancel your direct. You cancel your direct debit. You rejoin using the £24 a year, and then at the same time as you rejoin, you email me and say, I am a member. Please put this £24 against. I too try and check if someone joins whether they've if they're a member before, just in case they've doubled up or something. But if you could send an email to me at the same time and say, I've just replaced my £2 a month or whatever a month to £24 a month or £24 a year or £50 a year, whatever, just tell me and then I can flag it.
Ali, can you?
I can find you by name.
Yeah.
So we would retain that number.
Yeah, if you yeah.
Annie, can you set up a annual standing order?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone could do that. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Do that. I don't think the standing orders don't cost us anything.
It's direct debits that cost us.
It's direct debits that cost us.
Right.
Yeah.
So a monthly standing order would be fine then.
Yes.
Right.
Maybe put that in the newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground this evening, and thank you for that. I think there's one last opportunity for anyone to ask any questions that we haven't covered. If you wish to do so.
No, it's the idea was that we'd set it up, hand it over to the club, and say, "This is now yours. Run with it." So all the money goes to the club, apart from the fees to the lottery company and the prizes. Yeah, it's me and Joe, and Danny and Sam as well. But yeah.
Is there any way of doing, instead of that great big massive prize like they do with the 50-50, when you can walk away with £2,000, can you not have smaller prizes?
Yeah,
like your normal lottery.
We do, yeah.
We just paid out 1,000 and something on the first one.
Yeah.
But whereas
Yeah, so you got it's a 70-30 split effectively. So the 30% is the big draw jackpot, and then the second prize, was for the first draw was a season ticket, third was a season ticket, and the fourth prize was a TUST voucher, a voucher for the club shop, 50 quid.
it's just that when I joined it, it said first prize was £500, and I thought that's a good fair amount, £500.
Yeah.
And then 2 season tickets. So I thought, well, if I won any one of those 3, I'd be really happy for my £10. And then all of a sudden it's at over £1,000, and I thought, well, where did that come from?
It just grows because people that sign up because like that.
Then because everybody thought the first prize was going to be 500, why couldn't you have done some other prizes?
Yeah,
that was based on feedback from the guy who runs Club Lotto, what other
Yeah.
clubs do, and what attracts numbers. So
Yeah.
we've got up to 500 now, but it's a developing thing. We'll work with the club, and if that is the feedback that people say, oh, other people would sign up. If we had, I don't know, 20% to the winner and then 10% to second.
Yeah. It was based on Scunthorpe basically. So
still worth.
The jackpot for Scunthorpe is 250 quid. It's a bit nasty, isn't it? Right.
You've got first big prize.
Yeah.
But it's it's the other two.
Yeah. Yes,
it's got more chance.
dribble down then.
My own personal business doesn't attract me. Big prize. It's not going to change my life.
Yeah.
Right? But the chance of winning a few more prizes more attractive.
Yeah.
Than knowing you've got one chance in 500.
That's it. It's like,
that's just me.
for this month now, there's a 4 prize this month jackpot and 3 others. And then the idea is to get in touch with like some local businesses that want to offer a prize and that sort of stuff as well. But if like smaller cash prizes as well, that you can speak to David and see if that's possible.
And we've got 500 now. We're driving towards 50.
Yeah.
If we get more, that gives us more scope.
Yeah, see it.
It's not set.
Well, just as a guide, I mean, the 500 quid is 36 grand a year profit for the club, and if we get to that 750, I think it's 54, if I remember right. So it's all going.
There's a striker, 36,000
or a scoreboard.
Contribute. I haven't taken
Yeah.
chances, but I would like there to be a little bit more of a chance to win.
Yeah.
Just those.
Like, one being like a 500 quid second prize, or like
Yeah.
250 third prize. Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Rob's got some online.
Yeah, a difficult one, I'm afraid. Access to the family stand toilets, particularly if you've got a small child or mobility issues, that's really hard to resolve, I know, but it is a valid question.
Yeah, it's.
Can you please sort it out?
Next week.
Thanks.
There's more toilets for the family stand than there are for Bristow's.
Yeah, maybe there needs to be signage or walkways or something.
So I don't quite understand. So tell me the question again.
It's getting access to the toilets probably during half time. in
the family stage.
In the yeah, as you come in on the right from the turnstiles.
Because of the queue.
Because of the queue.
Yeah,
the queue.
Both for the toilet and the refreshments. Yes.
It's
It is
just
difficult.
A fairly inadequate toilet, isn't it? And unless, fortunately, a lot of money is spent to raise the capacity, you ain't going to be able to do very much about it.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say is it's very ad hoc, that queue, and it's not managed well, and it just becomes a big crowd of people.
You're right. Yeah. I think I'm right in saying the club are aware of the issue.
Yeah.
So the club are aware of it.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can give support. Okay.
Okay. I don't know, what time is it? I haven't got a watch.
9:20.
9:20. Oh my goodness! Well, it's past my bedtime. And I've got to drive home as well. Right. Okay. Look, thanks ever so much. I think it's been a most valuable evening. It's been really great to hear your views because we meet once a month in person, I'm pleased to say, but we do WhatsApp daily, hourly, on topics that arise. But to have you in the room here, and only sorry there aren't more of you, to be honest, but for those of you here this evening in the room and online, thank you so much. We do value each and every one of you, for your support for the club and for us. And we're all here for a reason, which is that we're all here together as like the football family to support our football club. And, we all want it to do well. We want it to be another successful season. And we want to end up being top of the table. So it won't be for want of trying. I know the manager's got all sorts of targets in mind. And we've seen one of them arrive this week. And there are others coming. So it's great. Thank you so much. Thanks for the evening. And
thank you, Nick.
We're all open. We're all open for you want to chat to us, then that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.